Hello and welcome back to the Supernatural Souls podcast. It's so good to be here with you today. I'm Jenna, your host, and we're doing an audio-only episode today so that we can have a conversation, just us, no interview today. We'll probably get back to interviews here soon, but I've taken a little break from the podcast over the last few weeks. One, to honor transitions, to honor these seasons of change that happen in life. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in the doing and what we're engaged in that we forget to pause and allow energy to shift, allow our consciousness to change and evolve, and to allow the universe to give us new reflections through physical reality about the direction we're headed. So around the end of February, moving into the beginning of March, around the Shivaratri timing, which is a holiday, particularly in Hinduism, dedicated to the Divine Father, Divine Masculine energy of creation, I was doing a lot of work around the death process and death in general as part of our cycle of life, as part of the honoring of life and these seasons of change. And so I announced at that time the death of the Star Family Wisdom podcast, which was meant to just shed light on this season of completion that is occurring for me, for this journey of navigating my way through many different spiritual lineages and pulling from all of those the tools and practices and wisdom that would be supportive for my transformation. And when I started that journey, my goal was this sense of completion, the sense of returning to a state of being, a more boundless, free, empowered state of being that I knew was possible for the human being. And so on that journey, the Star Family Wisdom podcast was born, and it was a place where I shared a lot of information about my experiences of awakening, my supernatural and mystical kinds of experiences that were unfolding, some of the lineage and spiritual traditions that I had connected with, and sharing from a place of openness and transparency about what I was going through and my consciousness evolution, and how that also related to a greater galactic awareness or sense of sentience in the cosmos, and through that process of allowing spiritual practice and what was a very, very dedicated, focused approach to that over a couple of years. Through that, I uncovered a lot more about myself and about what's possible in our reality. And so this podcast was born as an aspect of my venture into the Sai divine lineage of Sri Kaleshwar, Shirdi Sai Baba, and Jesus Christ, some other masters among them as well. And this was a podcast designed to share conversations about this particular lineage, where we have accessed and experienced high divine supernatural capabilities in a human, in multiple humans. And in this lineage, there's been so much beautiful work to carry forth the work that Swami Sri Kaleshwar started in his time on earth, which was to bring forth the exact spiritual practices, mantra, yantra systems, power channels, they are called sometimes, that were used by Jesus Christ and the Holy Family. And so this journey of engaging this particular system of mantras and yantras and learning how to work with these various power channels and aspects of consciousness that we can unlock within ourselves has led to some very interesting places. And it's been a really, really incredible process of continuing to do that shadow work within myself and on a collective level, understanding where that that collective shadow had been living in me and going through what has been, really profound transformation in a short period of time. And so as that has occurred, there have been some breaks along the way to allow for transformation and to allow for reflections and to allow for just the right integration to occur. Because when we're engaged in some of these more advanced spiritual practices, technologies, as we begin utilizing them, it's really, really important that we're taking time for integration, that we're taking time to really understand how is this new aspect of consciousness, how is this new energetic input into my system, how is that showing up in my life? And am I able to hold that in a healthy way? So I've spent a lot of time reflecting on that and taking breaks to allow for that sort of integration to occur, to allow myself to examine how these energies are activating within myself and others around me. Because as we know, as our consciousness shifts and changes, so too does the consciousness of people around us. And so we have an impact. We have a domino effect that starts to happen when we go through consciousness changes, when we are accessing more parts of ourself, which is representative of accessing more of the wholeness of the universe. So I wanted to talk a little bit today about the power channels. And I've had some beautiful conversations with a lot of you over the last few months, over the last year. I'm getting to know more folks who have engaged this lineage in particular. And I want to talk about the power channels in relation to that integration process and in relation to how we, in a healthy way, work with higher levels of energy, higher levels of power. And I want to reflect a little bit about the human system itself as an electrical system. And so we won't get into like specifics of, the exact power channels and what they do. We're not going to talk about that today, but we're going to talk about the process of what it's like, when we start engaging them and ways we can maybe stay focused on a healthy engagement of those power channels. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is grounding. I think we sometimes forget that this human system and this universe we live in is an electrical system. We are an electrical system. And so as we are engaging any sort of energy work, especially the power channels within the Sai lineage of Sri Kaleshwar, we are actively turning on new electrical channels. We are plugging in to the universal electrical system that exists. That might be obvious, to some, but I wanted to just say that out loud because I think it's important for us to remember how disconnected human beings have been from that greater electrical system and that greater flow of divine energy through our universe. And because of the state humans have been in, especially in the recent few thousand years, a lot of the pathways of light, the pathways of energy through a human system have atrophied, or we have blocks in place. And we've gotten ourselves into a place where we are so fragmented and so separate from our experience of source, from our experience of oneness in this universe, that we have a lot of energies that are going to be activated as we are in the process of coming back to that sense of unity, that sense of oneness. So we are on a journey as we engage these sorts of power channels or any energetic work. We're on a journey of moving from separation back into unity. And there's all of these ways, separation has occurred for us, or ways that our consciousness is having an experience of separation. So as we engage our full human electrical system, the goal ultimately is to bring that system back into a state of total harmony, back into a state of divine order, back into its perfect geometrical structure that mimics the perfect geometrical structure of the universe, so that you can access all of the energetic channels and aspects of consciousness that are available to you. Because of the state humans have been in, as we go on that journey to that place of universal harmony and wholeness, and we're activating these energies in our field, in our system that haven't been activated in this lifetime or maybe many other lifetimes prior, that is a jolt to the system. that takes time to integrate and to even understand how that energy is now affecting the mind, how that energy is now affecting the reflections from physical reality around you, how that energy is now interacting with other people's consciousness. So again, that time for integration is so important. But I also wanted to highlight something that I think is extremely important, which is grounding. And for those who are familiar with the element energy channels, one of them is the earth energy channel, and you stick your thumb right in the earth as you do that channel, which is about grounding. We're grounding ourselves to the earth energy. And we want to do that not only when we're doing the earth channel. So sometimes as we're engaging new energies, we're moving energy through our system, and many teachers and Swami talked about this, that we can sometimes get overcharged. We can almost be holding too much energy in our system. And I think sometimes, as we're kind of in this process of wanting to bring in high divine energies, powerful energies, there might also be this kind of sense of needing to hold that energy in our system. But I want us all to think of the human system as this system that energy flows through. We want to make sure that this system has the cleanest flow of energy possible. It is not, in my opinion, this is my opinion, just sharing my opinion in case it's helpful. My opinion is that we don't want to be holding tons of extra energy in our body. That's actually unhealthy for our human system if that goes on for too long. There might be some instances we want to charge up, pull a lot of energy into our system, because we're then going to give that, it's going to come through our system to someone else. Those sorts of moments are appropriate, but we also want to be thinking about how are we just maintaining the perfect flow of energy through our system. You might have seen images of toroidal fields, which is a spinning kind of motion of energy that creates kind of this tube. And so look that up online if you're not familiar with it. Toroidal flow, toroidal field, that actually represents the flow of energy in our universe and also in the human system. So the human system is almost designed to replicate how the universal flow of energy operates. So we want to make sure that our energies are balanced, and we have lots of channels, processes to work on that balancing, right? Like the balancing of masculine and feminine, the balancing of all the elements. But we want to make sure that as that balancing process is occurring, as we're maybe bringing in new energies, charging energies, that we're grounding to the earth. So think about like your house. We've got, in houses, a grounding cord that goes from the electrical system to the earth, because if electricity was just going through that house without a grounding cord, you would start to have fires. You would start to have major malfunctions in the house. So you're a house, and we want to make sure that you always have that grounding cord to the earth. So one thing I like to do, like if I can't get outside, for instance, I like to visualize myself in a bubble of light, or I use a pyramid of light. I like the pyramidal kind of structure. And then you can imagine a cord going all the way down from your root chakra to the center of Mother Earth, to the belly of Mother Earth. And you can almost think of that core of Mother Earth as also representative of the womb of creation. So we can, with our consciousness, send a cord of light down to Mother Earth's crystalline core, ask her to receive that and reintegrate that into the womb of creation. So whatever excess energy, whatever negative or dense or heavy energies are wanting to shift out of our system as we're bringing other energies in, that cord can help us do that. We also want to just put our feet on the earth a lot, especially if we're feeling overcharged or imbalanced. I talked to someone within this lineage specifically recently and heard about some practices that were going on. One of which, and I don't think these are super common, but as I heard about this, it brought a little concern, to my heart. And so I wanted to address it just for the health and wellness and safety of everyone who might be finding this channel or the power channels, the mantra yantra systems themselves, and working with them. One of the things I heard about was this idea of, sometimes if the energy is too much to handle, and we're feeling a little overwhelmed by the energy, or we're feeling maybe some anxiety because of energies that are coming up, that using alcohol might be supportive to manage that energy. Now, I don't think there's anything wrong with engaging a substance from time to time. I have a glass of wine from time to time. However, I feel strongly that it should be said out loud that, alcohol actually has a depressive effect on us. And there's lots of studies these days about the actual impact, negative impact of alcohol on our brain. And we can think of our brain as the receiver, right? Our brain is the receiver for consciousness, for the divine mind, for the illusions that will play in physical reality. And when we are engaging higher and higher and higher levels of energy and power and coming into our divine power and harmony, we are also starting to create a ripple effect of changes in the illusions around us. And one of the things we're doing is also working our way out of negative illusions. We're working our way out of karmas. We're working our way out of distortions and dysfunctions that have played out between humans. And so when we're in that process, I think it's really healthy and important for our health to steer away from alcohol a bit. Again, nothing wrong with a glass of wine here or there. But if we need alcohol to manage an energy that's coming up in us, or to manage feelings, or to manage anxieties, that might be a red flag for us that we need to pause and re-examine how we are engaging our reality, how we're engaging our spiritual transformation in a healthy way. One thing that is concerning to me about the topic of mixing, alcohol with these channels and with high-level spiritual practice is that, because of that depressive and actual harmful impact on the brain, that leaves us susceptible to negative illusions. That leaves us susceptible, vulnerable to the universe, in its balancing mechanism that occurs. It leaves us susceptible to coming into negative illusions, being hit with negativity. And so we want to maintain as, clear of a consciousness as possible. And so going back to that grounding recommendation, if we're feeling an increase of energies or emotions that are passing through our system, we want to focus on that, passing them through our system. They are not to be suppressed. They are not to be ignored. They are not to be managed by something else. We want to engage in healthy practices like putting our feet on the ground. That should be a first step before reaching for a glass of wine. Put those bare feet on the ground, decharge, let Mother Earth take energy from you. We want to engage breath work. We want to use the breath to move energy through our system. Again, thinking of this human system as a toroidal tube, a toroidal flow of energy. We want to keep that energy moving, especially when we're engaging really high power channels. That is critical for our success, because energy will get stuck in the body, and then that's going to create a compounded effect over time that can be rather uncomfortable to resolve. So we want to let that energy move and pass through our system. Same with emotions, same with feelings that are coming up. As we go through these processes of transformation and accessing the karmas, the traumas, the negative programming, the limiting beliefs we've carried, the beliefs we've had about ourselves that aren't true, the beliefs we've had about the universe that aren't true, that now we're undoing, and now we're in the process of rewriting that story. Every time we find one of those quote unquote negative aspects or programs that's running in us, the process of clearing that and transmuting that requires us to feel our feelings. It requires us to allow the full spectrum of human emotion and being to be present. So I also, want to highlight the concept of being both fully human and fully divine at the same time, and to also have no shame in that transformation process and in the stuff that comes up. Because we are, as humans right now on Earth, we are digging out of a really negative place that humans have been in, and no matter how spiritual we are, no matter, how long we've been on this journey, we have generations and generations and lifetimes of compounded stuff that we're clearing and making conscious. We are bringing so much that has been unconscious into our conscious awareness. And that is actually the process of becoming whole and supports our ability to hold higher levels of energy. So as we're on that journey of making the unconscious conscious for ourselves, and then working with that, whatever the past thing was, if it was maybe an unworthiness belief, or maybe it was a relationship trauma, we find that within ourselves. And we feel what we need to feel about it, but then we also transmute that by rewriting the story and now installing new beliefs. So if it's an unworthiness issue, it's okay to feel that as it's coming up. We don't want to push that down, but then we do want to use our consciousness and our mind to say, okay, that came up. I have been holding that in my system for however long. Thank goodness this is being released. Now, here's my new story. Here's how I am worthy, and here's how I know that and understand it and am feeling it and starting to live it. So we want to do that flipping the script process as we are in that transformation, transmutation process. And because of the amount of karmas and traumas and programs that we are rewriting and changing within ourselves, that can be a lot to process, and it can be uncomfortable. And there's a kind of tendency, I think, within us as humans to also want to resist that and kind of run from it. And because of how deep and ancient some of our karmas and issues are as humans, when the process starts and we're feeling what we're feeling about what has been suppressed, sometimes that can be pretty overwhelming. I've had some very overwhelming experiences that I did want to run from, but I also knew in that moment, that's not going to do any good. If I suppress this, if I run from it, I'm just going to have to come back to it later. So that's why when this is occurring, we need to be so mindful of what are all the tools in our tool belt? What are all the tools in our tool belt that help us move these energies through our system, move these emotions, let it pass through our system rather than letting it get stored up, or rather than using something to kind of cover that up. What are all of the spiritual tools and practices, grounding, exercise, sound, tapping, you name it. It goes on and on and on. We've got a lot these days. And so we want to engage, all of those tools that are at our disposal in addition to working with some of the energy channels within this particular lineage. Because I think all of that is highly complementary. If we don't have the foundation of these other tools and other practices, when we start to get into some of these more intense energies or clearings and transformations that are possible, we might not be set up for success if we haven't focused on some of those other foundational or complementary practices that help us move through those transformation processes. I've started to understand over the last year, the power channels, if engaged without, prior transformation work or karmic clearing work, these will absolutely help unearth that in people. And that can be kind of a opening Pandora's box, all at once. And so we want to make sure we understand what's going to happen, when we engage these power channels. We want to make sure we understand that what's going to come up is going to be a lot to move through, and that we're going to need support. We're going to need tools and other practices that help us stay resilient in that transformation process. So I think, as we evolve and transform, thinking of our system as this electrical system that needs grounding, that needs, to make sure that this perfect electrical flow is occurring, can be just a good, visualization for us, or be a good reminder about what's going on in our system, right? That sometimes, we just have too much energy built up. We have a blockage. Sometimes we don't have enough energy flowing through our system. And so really tuning into that can just be so helpful and supportive to help us, stay conscious in the process rather than maybe running from what we're feeling or not maybe fully understanding, how to manage our system. I also want to go back to that concept of fractalization or fragmentation and this idea of, how we start off as whole, as one from source, and as source split into two, as the energetic fractalization process in our universe began to occur, that, gives us this experience of separation, which is not a bad thing, right? Like, this physical reality is designed to give us a sense of differentiation, a sense of separation for that purpose of creation and playing in physical reality and this dynamic exchange of energies. However, again, on Earth, because of compounding events and circumstances and negativity that we won't get into here, but because of how compounded that has gotten on Earth, most humans have found themselves in a very separate experience of reality, where they, almost can't feel connection with others or even a sense of oneness with others. And so we're on that journey back to this sense of wholeness and experiencing ourselves as each other and experiencing our connectedness and our interconnectedness, our interdependence, in a sense. And so that idea of fractalization has had me reflecting a lot lately on the idea of authority and how as humans, as we became so fragmented over the millennia and through traumas and negative programming, really started to see ourselves as completely separate. We started to not even understand like a concept of source and connection with source. Again, there's lots of compounding effects there, but we started to have this experience of further and further and further and further fragmentation or fractalization. And when that occurs, because we have lost our sense of wholeness, which ultimately is a sense of empowerment, when we undo some of that fractalization or fragmentation that has occurred, and we return to a more whole, kind of unified state of consciousness, we find ourselves feeling empowered. We find ourselves feeling less limited by circumstances, people, reality around us. But when we're in that really fragmented, fractalized place of separation, of not feeling whole and worthy and complete within ourselves, it becomes really easy to give our power over to people. It becomes really easy to start to see another who might be slightly further on the path of returning to wholeness and completion and embodying power. We might see those people and want to blindly follow. We might want to revere them. We might give our power over to them. We can see how this is played out in human history. We can see it in monarchies and the idea of royalty. We can see it in corporate structures. We can see it to some degree in governmental structures on this planet. And so, humans have found themselves in an extremely disempowered place. From my point of view, some of the things that the masters on this planet have demonstrated are more or less the norm in our universe. We are just now beginning to more fully understand the capacities, the capabilities of the human system and the truly boundless state of being that we can be in. And so I want to address the topic of authority for that reason, and specifically in relation to spiritual transformation and enlightenment processes. And even though this world, because of where we've been and the compounding negative effects that have, occurred and left humans in a lower state of consciousness, we've needed teachers, we've needed gurus to come along and show us the way, show us a path. That's where spiritual lineages happen, right? We have someone who holds wisdom, or a group of people who hold wisdom and knowledge about the journey to enlightenment, the journey to empowerment, I think we should maybe start to call it. And then a lineage is born for that information to carry forth. And when that occurs, it's so easy for humans to look at someone in some sort of authority position, someone who is demonstrating a slightly higher level of power than them, and give over their power, or deify, or start to do what we have seen happen in history, which is start to put people on pedestals as gods and goddesses because of whatever aspect of their boundlessness they're demonstrating. And so we need to be careful with that, I think. We have this tendency, again, because of the last couple of eras of humanity, we have this tendency to want to put others in charge. We have this tendency to want to follow others. We have this tendency to see someone else as more powerful than us and think they must have all of the answers, and to think that every word they're saying must be now a new truth for yourself, or whatever the case is. It's so easy for us to do that. And I want to just remind us that This is a journey of empowerment. The journey of enlightenment is not about blindly following another. It is not about looking at another as more godlike than you. It is not about giving your power over to someone. It is not about following a set of practices or a set of, wisdom and knowledge without questioning it. If we ever find ourselves in a place where an authority figure or person in a position of power is not allowing us to question things in a healthy way, is not allowing dialogue, is not allowing for an evolution of our understanding of things, that's a red flag. That's a major problem in our journey of empowerment. And ultimately, we are all empowered in ourselves to make the decisions, follow the practices and the wisdom, and integrate what feels right for us. I forget who it was. Maybe it was Ralph Waldo Emerson, I think, who said, create your own Bible. Pull from every spiritual tradition what rings true for you, and create your own Bible. And I love that. I think that is just a beautiful foundation to start with on this journey of empowerment and spiritual exploration. It is my opinion, belief, knowing that not one spiritual lineage on this planet holds everything a person is going to need to reach that ultimate level of empowerment. The Psi lineage holds a lot. The Psi lineage has some big pieces of the puzzle, but not all of them. And I just share that from my own personal experience and from my own personal exploration of this world, of this galaxy, of the spiritual traditions that are contained in this world. And I so deeply honor and am so grateful for all of the spiritual traditions of this world, because like we talked about earlier, the level of fragmentation and fractalization that has occurred in this world has also resulted in that occurring in our spiritual lineages, which is why not one holds all of the pieces of the puzzle. We are at a time, and this is part of this journey back to unification, this journey back to wholeness. We are now at a time where we have the ability, technologically, we have the awareness coming online to connect all of these spiritual lineages and to see what pieces of the puzzle they all hold and to bring those pieces of the puzzle together. And I'm excited about, seeing that continue to occur in our lifetimes. And I encourage everyone finding this or listening to do that for yourself, to not feel like scared of that, to not feel like you have to lock yourself in to one particular lineage or path or way of doing things. I think the journey back to wholeness, that journey back to empowerment is a journey of freedom. And if we find ourselves feeling almost trapped in a particular set of practices or wisdom or lineage, that might be a red flag. That might be a red flag for our freedom and our ability to continue expanding our consciousness. Because ultimately, that sense of freedom means that there is no dogma. You simply are now in harmony with the universe. You are now operating as a free agent in this universe. You are operating at the highest level of your free will capacity. And that's a beautiful thing. And there are many ways that can show up. And I think sometimes, we, again, because of that sense of authority and almost turning over our lives to a path because of a particular authority figure or sense of authority that's there, we might miss out. We might miss out on this greater freedom that is possible in our lives. I saw a social media post this last week by a woman, high priestess, someone I've followed for a while, who I think does beautiful, beautiful work with the divine feminine, and particularly with nature and with earth. And she did a post about ordainment and initiation, and talked about how some of her followers were asking about whether she could ordain them, right? Initiate them into one, a priestess path, but then two, actually ordain them as priestesses to then, go forth and do priestess things, bless people, do ceremony, all that stuff. And her response was beautiful, I thought. She said, "No, I will not ordain you, because your authority is between you and God. No other human can come along and give you that authority." And I thought that was a perfect answer. Now, I do think, we do need initiations. We need support from those who have walked the path before us. We need folks to guide us and help turn on, new levels of awareness within us. But as that's occurring, again, no other human, no other being actually has the right to say, you are now an authority on X. You are now in your empowerment to do X, Y, or Z. We might have systems on this planet. We might have some expectations of that are in place, for sure. But in reality, your authority is between you and God. And you'll also know, as you become a more empowered being, how that empowerment is showing up in the world, and where you might be feeling a sense of authority. And so again, I think sometimes we look to others to say, tell me I'm an authority now. Tell me I'm fully empowered. And that is giving up our empowerment. That is turning over our power to another. But rather than doing that, staying curious on the path, engaging with others from a place of mentorship is important. I was talking with someone else recently about that idea of mentorship, and even viewing, masters and divine souls who demonstrate higher levels of power or ability or consciousness, to just view them as mentors. And I loved how this person was talking about that, and then we had this joke about that, idea being like a mentorship program. We have a spiritual mentorship program going on Earth. And I think thinking about it like that can be really helpful. And also on that topic, at Whole Foods, when I was a leader there, we developed mentorship programs so that we had this sense of connectivity between leaders and team members, and a support system in place for team members who were wanting to gain new skills and abilities, or just work through things and learn. And so identifying a mentor and then a mentee was something that we did. But as we did that, I started to notice, while the mentee, the person being mentored, is absolutely receiving guidance, support, knowledge, whatever from the mentor is also receiving something in return. So it goes both ways. Sometimes we're the mentor and sometimes we're the mentee. And I think in all of our relationships, that is true. That is this process of reciprocal exchange and balance that is occurring. And I think Buddhism, we hear a lot about beginner's mind. And I think that's really helpful and important to bring into that kind of this conversation about mentorship and that fluidity between being a mentor and being a mentee. Right? For instance, I'm a mentor to a lot of people, but I'm also a mentee. I'm still being mentored by my mentors. So we want to think of it like that we're just a support system for each other, and no mentor can tell you are now the ultimate authority on X, Y, or Z. And we certainly don't want to turn that power over to a mentor, but we want to work with that mentor to develop our own internal sense of authority and to feel, very confident and assured, about the skills, the knowledge, the wisdom that we're embodying and integrating, so that when it comes time to be that authority, that just naturally occurs, that it's not a forced thing. It's not a thing that, someone else has deemed possible now. This is your own process of spiritual empowerment and evolution and coming into your authority and coming into your sense of wholeness and completion. And so that's one reason why I continue to connect with and learn from so many different mentors, teachers, spiritual traditions in this world, because, I'm on a journey of freedom and ultimate empowerment. I'm on a journey of not boxing myself in to one way of doing things and to learn and to keep that beginner's mind, to stay curious about reality and how reality is also evolving as we evolve. So I wanted to share all of that today from a place of reflection and knowing, we haven't had an episode in a few weeks. And while I'm in this integration process, I thought, maybe some of these thoughts might be helpful for those who are on this journey, for those who are finding this path in particular with the Psi lineage and starting to engage those channels, and to also just honor that process, that journey, back to wholeness and all of the little complications that come with that, and to recognize, how we're still integrating and learning, so much about ourselves and about what's possible and about our history on Earth, about our connection to sentient beings and other places off of this planet. We're in a stage of major awakening on Earth, and that's not always easy. So, I also want to just remind you to give yourself grace in this process, right? Grace can come directly from God, directly from the divine. It can also come from you. And so you can give yourself grace in those moments where it's been challenging, where it's been hard, where you have felt the fullness of your humanity and it has maybe not felt great, or maybe you have found yourself, in the darkness for a period of time and you're working your way out of that. It's all perfect. It is all part of the journey. It is all important. All of it. Everything we experience, everything that we are, accessing and transforming within ourselves, all of the opportunities we get to practice new levels of awareness. This journey to empowerment or enlightenment is a big journey. And so I honor that journey by, taking breaks and making sure there's space for integration and really, looking at, how I'm engaging my spirituality and those around me in the healthiest way possible. So I encourage you to join me on that journey and remember that you are your own authority in your life. You are the creator of your life. You have boundless potential. You have higher levels of freedom that can be accessed and experienced. You have the ability to create heaven on earth. And if, what you have experienced hasn't been that, That's okay. we're on the journey from, moving from limitation to empowerment, from limitation to manifestation. And that's a big learning curve for humans, for all of us, given where we've been. So give yourself grace, give yourself time, integrate, ground yourself, move the energy, make sure you're doing the practices that keep that energy flowing through your system. Allow yourself to feel it all. Feel what you need to feel. Don't be ashamed of it. Don't judge it. Allow yourself to be human and celebrate that, because that's what we're here to do. We're not here to be anything other than human together. Okay, I'll stop talking and we'll wrap up for today. And I wish you a beautiful end of March and a beautiful Easter in whatever way you celebrate Easter. And we'll talk again soon. Bye for now.